Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're breaking down a framework that's all about tackling one of the toughest challenges for big companies: how to get focused, sustainable growth. So, you know your business needs to grow, right? The ambition is there, it's crystal clear. But the path forward, well, it can feel super complicated, totally clouded. It's that classic feeling of knowing you need to hit the gas, but you're not exactly sure which road to take. And this quote, it really nails it. Xerago's whole approach points out that the real trick isn't just having a strategy. It's about having one that slices right through all that noise, One that lets you focus on the stuff that actually moves. Okay, so before we jump into the fix, let's talk about the problem. What are these common roadblocks that just stall growth for big companies in this digital age? I bet some of these feel pretty familiar, right? You've got this huge disconnect between what the top brass wants and what customers actually need. Or maybe your tech folks, your data team, and your customer experience or CX gurus are all off in their own worlds, not talking to each other. All of this just creates friction, and it leads to the same old story: these really smart, idealistic strategies that are just impossible to put into practice. So the big question is, how do you sort out this mess? Well, Xerago's whole approach is built on a really methodical philosophy, designed to tackle exactly these kinds of problems. They've got a name for it: the science of digital. And the name says it all. This isn't about throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. It's a system, a process for methodically connecting that big picture strategy with real, measurable results, all while keeping the customer front and center. And the engine driving this whole system is a 4-step framework they call IDEA. Simple name, right? But each letter stands for a critical step to get you from chaos to clarity. All right, let's get into the good stuff. We're going to break down this IDEA framework and see exactly how each step helps turn an insight into actual real-world impact. Okay, first up is identify. Think of this as the diagnostic stage. On the left, you see how they work: interviews, audits, all that deep dive stuff. But the really important part is on the right: what you get. It's all about turning those conversations and findings into hard, objective assets, like a digital maturity scorecard. The whole point here is to stop guessing what the problem is and start proving it with data. All right, next up is D for define. This is where you take everything you just learned and turn it into a concrete plan. You see how it works? You go from a vague CX vision to a solid experience strategy blueprint. You create a real technology roadmap. It's all about making the strategy tangible, something that teams on the ground can actually run with. Then we have E for enable. I mean, a brilliant plan is pretty useless if it just collects dust on a shelf, right? So this phase is all about activation. And notice the words here: co-create, support. This isn't just about dropping off a big binder and walking away. It's about getting in the trenches with the teams and embedding these new ways of working. And last but not least, A for amplify. Because growth isn't a one-and-done kind of thing. It's a cycle, a continuous feedback loop. This is where you track what's working, you run experiments to make it better, and this is key: you build a strategic growth model so you can scale those wins. You make sure a success in one corner of the company becomes a success for everyone. Okay, so you might be thinking, wow, that sounds like it could take forever. But here's the thing: a huge part of this approach is actually about speeding up that whole journey from that first aha moment to seeing real impact. So how do they do it? What's the secret sauce for speed? Well, they don't start from a blank page. The whole framework is supercharged by a library of proprietary, pre-built toolkits and accelerators. Think of it like this: instead of building a car from raw metal, you're starting with a high-performance chassis. You're customizing, not inventing from scratch. And that, as you can imagine, fast-tracks results in a big way. And these toolkits didn't just appear out of thin air. They're the result of more than 20 years of hands-on experience working deep inside huge, complicated companies. That's the kind of experience you need to really get the unique challenges that only show up when you're operating at that massive enterprise scale. So this all comes back to a really crucial idea. Their whole philosophy is about creating strategies that are, as they say, built to land. It's a huge distinction. Instead of some perfect pie-in-the-sky plan that you can never actually implement, this approach is firmly anchored in what's possible for your organization right now. It's about bridging the gap between your biggest ambitions and your day-to-day reality. And it looks like this approach is pretty darn versatile. I mean, look at the industries here. You've got BFSI, that's banking, financial services, and insurance. You've got retail, healthcare. These are wildly different worlds, but it shows that the core principles of the framework, diagnose, plan, execute, improve, they're adaptable no matter what business you're in. Okay, so this brings us to the big takeaway. We've walked through the framework. Now, how could you bring this kind of focus to your own business challenges? So, what would step one even look like in the real world? Well, in this model, it all starts with that initial diagnosis. To make it concrete, Xerago actually offers a 3-week, no-cost consultation that basically walks you through that first identify phase. The whole goal is to give you a clear, objective snapshot of where you really stand. And what do you walk away with? You get those 2 key assets we talked about earlier, a high-level gap analysis and your own custom digital maturity scorecard. It's essentially a free test drive of that identify step, giving you a powerful data-driven look in the mirror. And that leaves us with one final question to chew on. Just think about it for a second. If you could wave a magic wand and get rid of just one thing, the single biggest barrier holding your business back right now, what would it be? Because figuring that out, well, that's your first real step toward getting focused.